Good evening. It is Monday, April 15th, 2024. Welcome to episode 59 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. On tonight's broadcast, we'll be covering homestead news, a question and answer segment, the weekly poll with your choice for the greatest U.S. presidents of all time. Did you know? And the main topic of the evening is the beautiful sheeple, where we will discuss the use of mass surveillance technology and ask the question, how much of this technology is too much? And is there anything we can do to slow its advance? But first things first, how are you, Rebecca?
I am great. We had an opportunity to go down and see Mom. She bought you a beautiful rosebud bush. Mm-hmm. And it was a nice visit.
Yeah, they're actually coming up tomorrow, so it's always nice to visit with family. And she did surprise me with a Western red bud, which is something I've actually tried propagating around here, but she heard me talking about red bud and we were admiring them as we're driving down the highway. I was pointing them out to her, and then she decided she would just get me one purchase. So that was awful nice of her to do. And they're nitrogen fixing shrub and tree, so they're a really good thing to have. But not only that, they're just another beautiful sign of spring. They have an early bloom, and I like, to see them in the springtime. But it's pretty ironic. We were just talking 2 episodes ago about not rushing to judgment and talking about the juice, and the juice is now loose. He got put down. I didn't realize the dude was even sick, but good riddance as far as I'm concerned. I got a chance to watch along with all the rest of America. So I was essentially a juror, just like the jurors that were there passing judgment on him. But I feel comfortable passing judgment on somebody who I got to see an awful lot of evidence on, and the evidence spoke to his guilt. And it's unfortunate for his family. It's unfortunate for the victim's family. And good riddance. It's quite a shame to see somebody who had so much promise and talent. The first half of his life was pretty amazing, but the last half was pretty marred by obviously a lot of evil, in my opinion. So good riddance. What's your thoughts on the juice? Do you have any?
I hope he's rolling over in his grave for what he did.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not that kind of guy, and that's the unfortunate part about it. But anyhow, enough on the juice. We had the eclipse, man, in the last week or so since last we were on. And if any of you got an opportunity to see it, I imagine I'd like to hear what your thoughts were on it. I know that we got a chance to see totality in Idaho in 2017, the last time we had a really good one prior to that. And we just stumbled upon it, and it was a very unique experience. And I am assuming those that had the opportunity in parts of our country to see that, it left an impression on you as well. But we're actually going to be having another eclipse in 2044 and 2045. 45 is actually the big event. And if, in fact, I'm still alive, it'll be pretty cool because it's going to pass right over our house. And that'd be pretty interesting. But it's going to make an arc. In fact, I'll put it up on the screen, but it's going to make an arc all the way from Northern California and arc all the way across the country, all the way down to Florida. And it's going to be a better event than it's been in the past because it'll have more minutes of darkness. I think it's going to have as much as 6 minutes of totality, whereas the last one only had like 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes or something like that. In when you're right dead set in the path. But that'd be a pretty unique event. But 21 years from now, I'll be like 80 years old. She'll be like,
don't say it.
How old are you?
You're not.
But anyhow, yes, check this out.
The main event, 2045, a cross-country eclipse visible from California to Florida, and there's already good things going for it. First off, the time of year, high chance of good weather, so that means a lot of people should be able to see it. And also, it's a very long eclipse, lasting over 6 minutes for some areas, And you compare that to the 2017 eclipse that only lasted a little over 2 minutes. So really 2045, the next big total solar eclipse in the United States.
Yeah. So pretty cool. And I hope I'm around to see it. Hope we're both around to see it. And
yeah, we were fortunate with the last one in what do you say, 2017?
yeah, 2017.
Because we didn't expect it, and we were just stopping to camp, that the gentleman and I believe his daughter that was across from us allowed us to look through their telescope, because of course they prepared for it and came for the event. And
yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a really big thing for a lot of people, man. I mean, there's people traveled all over and they'd planned for years to be there, and we were just kind of like stumbled upon it, like, what is this, man? I'm not even into this. And yeah, it was very unique, so very cool. Yeah. Right on, JC. Definitely lived up to the hype, so I guess you saw it as well. And yeah, I think some people probably weren't that impressed with it, but it's a unique thing to see. And the thing that was neat for me is watching the animals react, because there were ducks on this lake and they started like freaking out when it actually went dark. They were just zipping all around, and people were, hooping and hollering and playing Pink Floyd music. And, man, it was like, this is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a very unique morning. I'll definitely say that.
Yeah, I would say the same for me. Was watching the ducks, and they just didn't know what to do with themselves.
No, it was they were freaking out. So around the homestead here, I've been working on this fence project, as you well know, and I've got the orchard all the way sealed up. I'm really happy about that, but I still have another little section of fence to do in the pasture, but that shouldn't take me too much longer to sew that up. We're still getting a lot of rain around here, and no complaints, man. No complaints at all. We had a pretty significant rain event a night or so ago, but it's just going to keep all that grass coming. I'm not ready for fire season to jump off on us yet. So I understand there's still going to be more storms in the future for us. Looking at the future cast, they're calling for more like El Nino style Pineapple Express stuff coming in all the way almost up into May. So at this point, no complaints. We're now in our 5th month, and one of the things that we do, because I think it's very important to do when you're somebody who's preparedness minded, part of preparedness is training. And so every 4 months we do what are called quarterlies, and that's going over things that we don't ordinarily see or do that often. Because if you don't think about certain things when you need to access that information or that piece of equipment, it's not going to be ready, and you may not even remember where you put it. So we like to review those things every 4 months, and we've been working on completing all of our quarterlies, which usually doesn't take that much time. But things like, what do you do when you need to get out of your house in a hurry? What's your evacuation plan? All those sort of things are really important to talk about ahead of time, because again, when you need that to get out of your house and you haven't thought it through, you're probably not going to make the best of decisions when you're waking up from a sleep or you're surprised. So we work on our evacuation plan. We work on our inch bag, review what we're going to do there. Go over our get home bags. That's something that both her and I have, is a get home bag we carry in our vehicles. And so we're just looking at all the things that we put in those bags, because it's easy to put things in bags. And then if you don't look at it but once a year, or maybe even if you don't even look at it that often, you're going to forget that you have certain things in there. So we just pull those bags out, we look through them, make sure we know where they are, what is in there, and if we need to update anything. And certain things are perishable, like food. We keep food in there, whether it be some freeze-dried food or just some quick calories, and that kind of stuff needs to be rotated out, as well as batteries and things like that. So it's just really good idea to review that sort of stuff, and that's what we've been working on. Also too, like in the home, it's a good idea to look at all your fire extinguishers and make sure you know how to use them, their locations, and making sure that they're not expired, things like that. Firearms is another good one too. A lot of us probably we're probably people who carry a firearm, and unless you're shooting all the time, there's really not a lot of reason to clean your gun. But there kind of is when you carry it all the time, because if I haven't shot my gun in 4 months because of ammo prices or whatever, I'm just doing dry fire. By the time I break my gun down, it's full of lint and everything else that I've carried, or that I'm carrying on my body, sweat and all those sort of things. So it's just a good idea to break all your stuff down and review it and go over it. So I like to do that every 4 months.
Plus our bags are set up basically identical. So if he had to run and go grab mine, he knows exactly where everything's at in mine, as well as me knowing exactly where everything's at in his.
Right. Our get home bags are identical. The only difference is she's got her clothes in hers, and I've got my clothes in mine. And so we've got them set up for that reason, so that, you know, we could know where to find certain things and whatnot. So it's just good to plan that sort of stuff out. Vehicles is another thing that we want to make sure that we're running around here, that they're not just sitting, because we have more than just one vehicle. Some of them don't get run all the time. So we like to make sure that's being done quarterly. It doesn't take a lot to go out and fire something up or drive it down the road now and then, but we like to make sure that we're doing that. Same with our generators and all those sort of things. Yeah, another thing that I had just talked to Rebecca about, like, I don't know, what was it, four days ago or so, I had mentioned, I said, yeah, I'm going to have to start limbing that willow tree because I got a lot of dead stuff in it, and I need to get that stuff taken care of. And I came out yesterday morning, and right outside the door, my peach tree guild that's planted into a hugel mound was just like clobbered by one of those limbs. And it was probably, I'd say it's 12 inches where it broke off, and there's a good bit of biomass along with that, and just laid perfectly right on top of my hugel mound. And yeah, it did a little bit of damage, but it'll set me back a little bit, but no sweat. It just accelerated what I was doing yesterday and today. So yesterday and today I was out with the pole saw, taking out more material and, working on that sort of stuff. But it's just kind of ironic, you say something like that, and the next thing you know.
I think it's the only time I've heard you talk about missing work.
What's that? Can you talk about
cleaning up and not having a hand crew.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. What's up, Skanes? How are you? Good to see you this evening. Hope all is well. I don't know, did you get a chance to see that, the eclipse as it came through? I know that it came kind of in that neck of the woods. I don't know if you got it total black or whatever, total blackout, but pretty unique deal. I was thinking about you the other day. Yeah, and I wanted to get all that dead material out because I'm going to be losing the window on making biochar, and there's an awful lot of dead material in there that I want to use for making trench biochar. So again, the rain that we're getting is only going to help push that window out. Typically around here, we see a burn restriction placed about May 15th is usually when they cut off burning for us, and then once they do that, we can't burn outdoors or make biochar or anything like that. But yeah.
Speaking of biochar,
I've
given my hand at making some biochar soap, and of course it needs to set up for another 4 weeks, but it's promising. Yeah,
no, I'm pleased with how that came out. I really like it. It feels good. It's a half lard, half tallow, and then there's other oils and stuff like that in there. So it feels nice. It smells nice, and yeah, we've used a little bit of it, but you really can't tell how soap's going to be until it has the opportunity to fully set up and do what soap's supposed to do over time, right? Yeah, another thing that we have been doing around here since it's now April 15th is that's usually the time when we're starting to get to the point where we can actually plant things in our garden somewhat safely away from frost. I wouldn't say I feel completely comfortable until we get into May, but typically around April 15th is when I'll start putting in some crops and things, because we can always get hit with a late frost that winds up taking you out. But I like to try to stagger it starting as early as I can, and April 15th is usually when I start putting stuff in. But I actually put tomatoes in like 2 weeks ago, actually. I planted some Early Girl and Better Boy, and I just added some San Marzanos this last week. And so, yeah, it's that time of year. I'm going to be putting in some more annuals. But I've also been sowing in, out in this edible landscape, I've been trying to sow in a bunch of different seeds because I want things to just kind of randomly grow in there. And some of the things that I've planted thus far are sunflower seed and pumpkin and watermelon. So I'm just going to have those out in that area where I've got my fruit trees, and if stuff grows out there, they'll have plenty of room to sprawl and to drop, and you know, melons will be able to grow, as well as squash and pumpkins and things that need more room to sprawl. But those things are great to have out in an area like that because they serve as not only a ground cover, but it's food, and it's just better for your soil if you can try to keep it covered, and those sort of things will help do that. Problem I'm having is these damn birds, you know, those house sparrows. Yeah, they're a pain. I'm just going to have to either net some things until it gets established, or try to disguise some of the things that they like to eat. But they really like sunflower seed. As soon as sunflower seed comes up, they'll come over and just eat it, you know, right before it can even get established. But once it gets established and pushes out its true leaves, they generally won't mess with it. But those first couple of, you know, leaves that they push out, they'll find those, and then they'll just nuke you. But yeah, sunflower are really great. I plant them with the hope that they will be, for one, I like them because they're very aesthetically pleasing. I like to see sunflower. I just like seeing them. But also they are a great pollinator. They're going to bring in honeybees. They're going to bring in bumblebees. They're going to bring in all kinds of things that are going to want to pollinate that. Plus, I plant them as a trap crop. So what it will do is it will bring in those house sparrows, and they will pay attention to that rather than eating things that I don't want them to eat. So it's basically kind of like a sacrifice, or what would be called a trap crop. I always try to keep things here on the property flowering at all times, if at all possible. That's one of the really best things that you can do as a gardener. If you live in an area that you can keep things flowering to be able to draw in those beneficials, it's going to help you in so many different ways. It's going to bring in the pollinators, but it's also going to bring in predatory insects that are going to help to manage that pest load. And that's going to help you to do it naturally rather than spraying pesticides. So it's just really important to try to do that. I've got things here that actually I'm able to overwinter, and you know, calendula is something that I can overwinter. Snapdragon I can overwinter. And these are some annuals, but they're a great thing to have on your property that will overwinter. Borage is another one that overwinters for me here. But again, we don't get really, really hard winters.
You did the same cilantro, didn't you?
Oh yeah, we've got cilantro growing out there all winter. And yeah, that's another thing that I've planted is cilantro and dill, because even though those are they're an annual crop, they're in essence, once you get them established, they're almost kind of like a perennial because they are so prolific at reseeding themselves. And so it's just really great. Anytime that you have things that are tiny flower clusters, things like dill, things like fennel, things like cilantro, alyssum is another great one. They'll draw in those tiny parasitic wasps and flies, you know, those little hover flies and things like that. And what they do is they feed upon the pest species and lay their eggs in them. Things like caterpillars and stink bugs and tomato hornworms and aphids and all of those things that we don't want on our plants. If you plant things that are going to actually draw in those predatory insects, you know, it's going to help bring your problem under control in a more natural way, because they're going to support their reproduction while killing the host insect. It's just a really great thing to do. And yeah, I don't think enough people do that as gardeners. But again, you have to live in an area where you can, you know, try to keep that bloom going year round. But even if you're not when you do have the ability to start planting, try to get those types of things established in your planting space, and then just make those observations, looking at those things, studying them, and seeing what's actually landing on them. It's pretty cool to see when you actually just sit there and you watch all the little things that are coming in, and they're doing their job, man. That's what they're there for. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, fennel, I've got that stuff planted everywhere. The only problem is if you're going to plant fennel with dill, they can cross-pollinate, and then it kind of messes things up. So you want to keep that separate. But you know, fennel's a great perennial that just keeps coming back year after year.
Compliments on your sheep tractor.
Oh yeah, wait, hold on a second. Let me see what's up. Let me see here. Skane says she had 90% here on the other side of the clouds. It got really dark though. Yeah. If it's, man, you got to have the 100% to really get the good thing, because it's interesting how when it's still any amount of sun showing, it's still like kind of daylight out. You're like, huh? Because I'm looking at it through the thing and I'm like, damn, it's almost gone. And I'm looking around and it's still kind of daylight out. But then once it fully goes behind, and then you have that what is it called, the corona or whatever, that like glow thing happening. Man, it's like it gets dark. But even when there was just a little diamond showing, it was still kind of daylight. But yeah, that's cool. You got to see it at all. It's a unique thing. Yeah, yeah, I like your sheep tractor you build, Bro Willie Harris. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's working out well. I will say that there's some things I would have changed on it, but it was made in about 4 days for about $1,200. Most of it was sourced from Tractor Supply and Harbor Freight and stuff like that. I basically put this thing together off the shelf. So I appreciate that. But again, it's working out. I've had those sheep in there for over a year. The pain for me is that it doesn't have a gate on it, and that's kind of a problem. But I couldn't figure out how to do that with the materials that I had available to me at the time, and it is a problem. What I'll do is I'll take the sheep if they're small enough, and I mean I can do that with all the ewes, and basically just turn them on their back, flip them over, and then I just slide them out underneath those skirts that come up, rather than taking it all apart, because taking it apart's a real pain. But yeah, I appreciate that. And it looks like you'll be getting your first, oh yeah, getting some Dorpers. Yeah. Bro Willie Harris says, I'll be getting Dorper sheep. I have one Dorper, and she's like tiny.
She's very tiny.
Yeah, she's very tiny. I didn't even think she would have you know, a lamb or whatever, because she was so small. I didn't think the ram would even be able to breed her. She's so small. But they're a smaller statured animal anyhow. But man, is she small, and her little lamb was like the size of a football when it came out. Tiny.
So cute.
Yeah.
He told me there's my goat, because he won't let me have any goats.
Yeah, hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so where were we here? Let's see here. Oh yeah, and then I told you guys that we were going to be processing that steer, and he's actually got a graduation day, and it's scheduled for this coming Wednesday. So we'll be having him processed. Frank the Kill guy is going to come out, and he's going to do what Frank the Kill guy does. And I think I'm going to try to get some content on that so people can see that from a professional that actually does this for a living and has been doing it for years and years and years. And yeah, it's something that's been well received from other people who have seen some of the other video that I did when we had our our hogs processed. People seem to like that. So I might do something similar with this particular steer when we process him on Wednesday. So maybe be expecting that. And then also on the homestead, we just started getting more eggs from our pullets. So typically speaking, people can expect, depending on the breed, anywhere from like 5 is early, 5 months is early to have your chickens or your hens start to lay. That's on the early side of things. But I've actually, every year that we've had these Novagens, they've laid by 5 months, they are solidly laying, and right now they're laying at 18 weeks. So they're 4.5 months old and they're starting to lay. We actually had an egg come in, a week or so ago that was like the size of like a little quail egg. So we're assuming it's from one.
Maybe about a little bit bigger around than a quarter.
Yeah, it was cute. It was a cute little egg, and then we're starting to get more from our pullets now. That again, they're 4.5 months old. So if you want chickens that lay eggs, you have to get chickens that are bred to lay eggs. All chickens will lay eggs, but some are better than others. And these are highly productive hens. They're bred for laying eggs, and that's why we have them. They're not great for dual purpose, and they're not great for meat because there's just not a lot on them. But what they're good at is laying eggs, and they will lay all the way through this next winter. They won't stop. So they'll lay continuously through the first 18 months, and then they'll be on to their second year and they'll still be laying. Our birds from 22 never quit this winter. We were selling eggs all winter, and we'll be doing that again next year. But that's again because we've chosen egg layers. And yeah.
Yeah, they're doing great. I had to tell them, I said, girls, you're doing great. Keep it up.
Yeah. And then we had one of our sheep had an avulsion by her eye. Not exactly sure how we're going to deal with that. Couple different options. I'm not really set up to try to stitch it myself. And I'm not calling a vet because it's just not cost effective. So we're going to see how this is going to transpire. Fortunately for her, it's not at the time of year where there's a lot of like flies out there. If there were flies, then she'd have a real issue. I'd have to pull her in and try to, either get that sewn up or come up with another option for her. But yeah, I think she cut herself somehow, maybe potentially trying to stick her head out underneath those skirts on the sheep tractor is really all I can think of. And I have not had that happen yet. So it could be that, or it could be something else that she, cut herself on, but she like right above her eye, or behind her eye, she like cut her skin. It's probably about 3/4 of an inch. And then there's this avulsion coming out. So we'll see how that transpires, but she'll either get shipped. I'll either sell her, or she'll live with it. Yeah. But anyhow, that's homestead news for today, and we are going to move into Did You Know, and that's Rebecca's department. So
did you know that the Pledge of Allegiance that
you gotta speak up.
Did you know that the Pledge of Allegiance that originated in 1892, and it went like this: I pledge allegiance to my flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, now I can't even talk, with justice and liberty for all, was accompanied by what was called the Bellamy Salute, which was you reach your arm straight out towards your flag, palm down, and at the end, you would turn your palm up, accompanied by these pictures.
Yeah, so if you look at these pictures, guys, what you're seeing is a bunch of kids standing before the American flag, and this happened to be children saluting the American flag September 1915, and they're basically holding their arms outstretched at a 45 degree with their thumbs under tucked, with their hand pointing just like the Hitler salute, like the Sieg Heil salute.
Right. So there was some controversy that arose in 1920s and 1930s of how this looked like the Nazi salute. And so it was changed to the hand over the heart, the right hand over the heart. And that didn't happen until 1942.
Right. And that kind of coincided with the whole World War II and Germany and Hitler and, all that sort of thing. But here's another picture of children saluting the American flag in front of the school in Morgan Hill, California in the 1930s. And for those that are just listening to this on audio, you have a group of children all lined up along a sidewalk in front of the school, all facing the flag with their arms outstretched, giving it the old Sieg Heil. Here's another image of that. So yeah, I think that's kind of an interesting deal that I wasn't really aware of. So I don't know what you guys, if you knew this, maybe I'm behind the curve here that I didn't know this, man. It's kind of a interesting thing, right?
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah. Let's see here. What's up, Hogs? How are you doing, man? Good to see you tonight. Hogs 14 in the great north of California. How you doing, man? Okay, so I'm going to get into the question and answer segment. And I had a guy asking something about biochar and getting the, this was a question from Rob McCready. It says, I realize that using green material in the inner chamber will produce mixed results. Is this a viable or safe way to dispose of yard waste that can't be burned in the open? Things like poison ivy. Basically what I had said to him, I said, you're probably not going to have much success in a retort with material that is uncured or wet. This could work if the vines were dry and reduced in size. That would provide proper airflow through the material. A better option, in my opinion, for dealing with the vines would be using the trench method. Now, of course, he was talking about avoiding burning this in the open, but my recommendation would be to burn it in the trench method. But you would still would benefit from having it dried, and you would still need to reduce it enough to get it into the pit. I personally would not try to make biochar with poison ivy, although it could be done, but not worth the exposure, in my opinion. And I said, here's a video demonstrating the trench method. If you want to take on this project, good luck. I wouldn't want to mess with that, man. I don't know. It's not something that's very prevalent around here. We have a lot of poison oak, but I have come in contact with poison ivy before, and I contracted it, and it's worse than poison oak, in my opinion. It was something that I do not want to have again, that it goes away and then it comes back, and then it goes away and it comes back, and it's super itchy. I mean, poison oak's no joke, but so I wouldn't even mess with something like that, to be quite honest. But if you want to do anything in a reduced oxygen environment, all you really need to do is to reduce the oxygen and then provide the appropriate amount of heat to it, and it's going to basically cook off all those volatiles. So you could do that with this sort of thing, but in my opinion, it wouldn't be worth the effort or the risk from what would happen by handling that material.
Skeins girl says she did not know.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, Skeins. It's a really interesting thing, and that's pretty recent history, quite honestly, that was going on all the way up until 1940 something. They were given
it was at the end of 1942 that it went to the hand of the heart.
Right, because one of those images that I put up there was in 1942, but it was in the early part of 1942, and then she looked it up, and it was actually toward the end of 42.
It was in December.
Yeah, and that's when they decided, no, we're not going to do this Hitler salute anymore. Maybe we should change up on that. Yeah. Right? Okay, so the next question from the Q&A says, this is from Sheikh Frementine, 8667. And he's referring to a video where I did on making silage in a barrel. And he said, do you have to put molasses in? What's its purpose? Could you just pack with grass? And I kind of gave him a short answer, but I'll elaborate a little further tonight. But I said the molasses is the food source for the bacteria. Without it, fermentation would not occur, and instead, you would have just an anaerobic green slimy mess. So if you put grass into a barrel and you packed it, it's going to have no oxygen. It's going to be in an anaerobic environment, and there's not going to be the bacteria present there in order to get yourself to ferment it. And so by adding molasses to something like that, it has multiple benefits. One, it's rich in sugar. It has a lot of sugar, and that's a great energy source for your ruminants. So whether you're feeding this to cows or sheep or Yeah, any other kind of ruminant, goats or something like that, it's going to be something that is going to give them energy. It's also going to increase the palatability of it, meaning they're going to want to eat it because it's sugary, it tastes good to them, so they're going to consume more of it. And it's also good for their gut biome because of that sugar is going to, it's just going to help with breaking down and all the bacteria that they have in their gut biome. It's going to feed that as well. So improved digestibility from that standpoint. Molasses is going to be good for that. It's also a preservative. It's going to help to preserve the material in the barrel, and then most importantly, it provides a food source for the bacteria that's in there, and it's going to produce lactic acid or lactobacillus bacteria. Lactobacillus bacteria is going to produce that lactic acid, which is going to be necessary for the fermenting process. So, you know, it has multiple reasons why it's used, and yeah, you wouldn't want to do it without it. Try it and then get back to me and let me know, because I'm going to tell you that it's not going to work. But anyhow, that's the story on that.
Yeah, I was going to guess that they like the sugar.
Oh, they do. That's one of the reasons why they put it in, you know, in grain and stuff. Yeah, they'll put it in grain. You know, you put it in your steer mix and your dairy mix and stuff like that. They'll add that because it just makes them want to eat it. And the more of that they eat, it's going to make them want to consume more dry matter as well. So you don't feed them a diet strictly that. You feed that in combination with roughage. So their hay and stuff like that, they're going to eat more of that. So it's going to be better in the long run for the amount of food that they're going to consume, thereby giving you either more milk production or more beef production. You know, so yeah, it's a thing. Molasses is a thing. And the last question I have is not really a question as much as it is a comment. It's from Bianca Gerard, 4229. And this is from the poll that I did, the presidential poll. And she made a comment and she said, Donald Trump will go down as the greatest president in history, Trump 2024. And I responded back to her and I just said that, you know, he is definitely a favorite among many working class Americans. Unfortunately, the media and the establishment play a large role in shaping how history will be told. Time will tell how 45 will be remembered, but he's the only president in my lifetime to put America first. And I wanted to have that comment out there kind of to lead into the poll, which is the next segment that we're going to go into, which was asking folks who was the greatest United States president in history. And I chose these individuals because there's somebody who I wouldn't choose specifically, but I wanted to see if there was other people who would choose them, because there's always people who have choices that are different from mine. These are about the worst presidents that I could possibly think of. So that's why I chose them. I wanted to see what people's response was. And out of 274 votes, bringing up the rear, in fifth place was Jimmy Carter with 2% of the vote. And then followed by that, it was a tie between Woodrow Wilson and Joseph R. Biden with 3% of the vote. Bringing in second place, in a strong second place, he really pulled it through, was Barack Obama with 7% of the vote. So 7% of 274 people thought he was the greatest US president in history, which I have to say, by any of these guys getting any votes, it surprises me. It really does. And I think Skane's Girl had something to say about that in the comment section. Yeah, it just surprises me that there's people that actually think that they're good presidents. But you know, I understand that everybody has choices to be made and their own reasons for making those choices.
I know you asked me who I would vote for, and I personally would have chosen none of the above.
Yes. Yeah, that's what overwhelmingly people chose. 86% of the respondents said none of the above because the choices that I gave them weren't to their liking, which I fully understand that. I would have chose none of the above because I don't think really these guys were aligned with what I view as somebody who's a great president. But again, it's just interesting that like anybody would vote for these guys when you realize how horrible that they actually are. But everybody's got choices to make, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I think the reason why I wanted to do this poll, guys, was Skate's girl says you think that none of the above would have been an obvious choice. Yeah, I feel that way, you know, but that's just the interesting thing though, is like we probably agree on more than we disagree, you and I, you know, especially politically. But then there's people out there that think things completely opposite of us. And that's one thing I always have to remind myself, that there's choices for everybody out there. And you don't know exactly why they've made their choices, but I think it all boils down to their life experience and just where they are in their place in life. A lot of people start out, they're liberals or they're got their eyes closed or whatever, and then they change. You know, there's changes that people go through in life. And like I say, I don't fault people for it. It's just sometimes it is a head scratcher. You know, you're just like, dude, how are you even voting for that? What are you talking about? I agree. But the thing that made me want to do this poll, quite honestly, guys, was I was at the gym. This was probably, I would say, a month and a half ago, and I'm just, you know, doing my thing. And I look up on the bank of monitors that they had up on the screen, and it was MSNBC, man. I mean, come on. You guys know what's up with that, MSNBC. I look up, and they've got this thing that says the greatest presidents in history. And it's listing them, right? And it goes through the whole like top 10. And I'll put this up there, but I saw that and I went, you got to be kidding me. But this is based on these group of historians, these presidential historians, and how they saw the greatest presidents being ranked in history. I'd like to know what the criteria is. I do know what the criteria is for Joseph R. And the reason why Joseph R. was ranked where he was ranked, this will tell you everything you need to know about this poll. But the reason why he was ranked where he was ranked was because he took Trump out. He defeated Trump in the last election. That's what they said. And it wasn't because of any of his accomplishments, because he's still in office, and usually they don't rank a president who's still in office. But you'll see where he ranked when I put this up on the screen. Check it out. So there we are. We've got, whoops, did I do it? What did I do? Sorry about that, guys. Is that up there? Okay. So number 1 is Lincoln. Number 2 is FDR. Number 3 is Washington. Number 4 is Teddy Roosevelt. Number 5, Jefferson. Number 6, Truman. Coming in hot, number 7, Obama. Barack Hussein. Looking strong.
Who I still say isn't born in the U.S.
No, probably not. 8, Eisenhower. 9, Lyndon Baines Johnson. 10, Kennedy. Ooh, number 14, Joseph R. Biden. Huh?
Still looking crazy.
14 out of all of those presidents. There's your guy, Joseph R. And they were gleeful in saying, you know, ha, 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 look who came in last. All the way down in 45, Trump, right? So, I mean, you have to take it for what it is. It's an MSNBC thing. It was run through the New York Times. It's this whole thing. But, I mean, it's pretty incredible. But I wanted to get from you guys, because you guys are the people. And that's why I put that poll out there, because I wanted to see how you guys were going to respond. And you guys had a different response. Obama didn't come in top 10 in this poll. So, yeah, what do you think, Rebecca?
I think that it was very left-leaning.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to assume that, right?
Mm-hmm.
None of the above is mine on that poll. Yeah. Let me see what you guys are saying. Yeah. Angel says mostly because they're being lied to and they haven't been red-pilled yet. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's kind of a weird thing.
We watched, was it? I'm not sure what we were watching that showed Biden, smelling the little kids' hair and pretty much inappropriately touching them.
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about that because it is not appropriate, and I don't really want to talk about the dude, sniffing kids or whatever. So, yeah. So, I don't know. Let's jump into the main topic tonight. And tonight's main topic is the beautiful sheeple, which directly ties to a new mass surveillance technology. Could you put her out, please? She's going to start playing, and it's annoying. But tonight's main topic, guys, is the beautiful sheeple, which directly ties to a new mass surveillance technology that's being used to bolster the law enforcement efforts from all the different agencies around the country. And they're called flock cameras. Everybody who drives by one of these cameras is logged into a centralized database as just another one of their sheeple in a flock of millions being randomly surveilled. Cameras by the government, quite honestly, are not anything new. Surveillance technology has been around for a good number of years, but in the past, it stayed locally. It was recording and storing all that information locally. But now with this new flock technology, it's being sent into that centralized server, and it's organized and managed by a single company who is contracting with multiple law enforcement agencies around the country, a lot of different governmental agencies, and the private sector, all in the name of safety. And I think the question that we should be asking is, how did we get here? Because it really wasn't that long ago, but there weren't cameras in every business. There weren't cameras in every public roadway, every stoplight that you went to, there wasn't a camera looking at you. There wasn't a camera in every cop car. So, how did that transpire so quick? I think that the answer, when you step back from it and you look at it, I think the answer lies in the enthusiasm that the authorities have for this sort of technology. Recently, the mayor of San Francisco, London Breed, just signed legislation authorizing the lease of 400 of these cameras in the city of San Francisco. And our dear leader, Newsom, dear Fuhrer, announced a contract to install 480 high-tech cameras in the Oakland and East Bay to battle crime. And I wanted to show you this video of him out there doing his politician thing in front of the cameras, showing, hey, look at what a good job I'm doing. I'm fighting crime. And I want to apologize for the video because it's pretty poor audio quality. But what I would like you to look at, if you are actually watching this at all, is take a look at this guy and just watch his mannerisms. But he is the consummate politician that you can just see the shit seething from his pores because he's so full of it. And, again, this is what we've dealt with in California for a good number of years, this politician and politics from his side of the aisle being pushed on the people. But he's quite the piece of work. But take a look at this video here. I want you to see old dear Leader Newsom.
Announcing 480 new cameras. These are referred to as flock cameras, which will aid and support the efforts of law enforcement to focus on stolen vehicles. This is proven technology where privacy is foundational and a core component of the effort. This is building on efforts we made just a few weeks ago with a surge in California Highway Patrol in partnership with the Department of Justice. By the way, that's led to already 200 arrests, over 400 vehicles that have been recovered that were otherwise stolen. Part of the broad strategy, not just a law enforcement only strategy, to begin to beautify this extraordinary here.
I can't even watch that dude anymore. I apologize for that audio because it was pretty poor. But what I wanted you to see is just the smile and the hair and the red face. The only thing that guy's missing is horns. He's absolutely evil, and he thinks he's better than us because I guess he is. He's protected. But anyhow, I digress. I digress. You know, it's almost as if they have created this problem so that they could rush in with a solution. What do you think about that, Rebecca?
I think that he should have been filming in downtown Oakland where you can see all the graffiti and all the homeless and everything else. I think he should have been standing right in the middle of that and discussing.
Yeah.
Instead, he's in like a little clean environment and.
Well, of course. I was asking more or less, what do you think about the fact that they've created this problem due to their policies, their soft on crime policies?
Yes, and that's where Scamsborough had said that fighting crime, why fight? Because there's no consequences. And I agree with that. There's absolutely no consequences. There's nothing to stop them from doing it.
Yeah. I had to watch 3 weeks of CNN when my brother was here. What a crock. Yeah, it's a weird thing, man. I don't know. I wish we had news that was actually just telling us what was going on without putting in those biases from either side. It would just be nice to see what's going on and let us make the determination what we think about it. I think that would be more useful than anything. Just show us what's happening and try to keep the politics out of it. But it's all presented for a specific reason and a specific agenda. And it's very, very hard to watch with any amount of objectivism, being objective of what you're seeing, because you're just, at this point for me, I'm just cynical on everything that I see. I just don't believe any of it. And so whether it's CNN or if it's Fox or some talking head on one of those channels, I have a hard time believing any of it.
Yes, he is the nephew of Pelosi, and I believe she is just as evil.
Yeah.
It's in the blood.
Yeah, it's a bad deal, man. It's a really bad deal. But I show you guys this more for the sense that I believe he's not going to be just affecting California. And I really feel that way because that's how the machine works in politics. It's just not his time right now. But when it is his time, they're going to be full force behind him. They're going to be full force behind him as the nominee. And then we'll just have to kind of see how things play out with how the election strategy goes and all of those sort of things. But when they want somebody in power, they're going to get the people that they want in power. And I would fear this guy if I were you, quite honestly. You think Biden's doing some shit right now that is stepping over the line and that is corrupt? You just wait. You just wait. But anyhow, so what is Prop 47? Rebecca, do you remember?
I don't.
Okay. Well, we're going to show you just right now. Here is what Prop 47 is.
2015, Californians were duped into passing an initiative called Proposition 47, which essentially allowed people to steal up to $950 worth of goods without repercussions by downgrading it from a felony to a misdemeanor. Led by then California Attorney General Kamala Harris, the intent was to reduce prison overcrowding and redirect those funds to schools, victim programs, and treatment services. Since then, we've seen a massive spike in smash and grabs, where stores are swiftly looted by large bands of mass criminals. Now, businesses all around California are closing. Macy's, Adidas, and Nordstrom are fleeing San Francisco because of the crime that has resulted as a consequence of Prop 47. However, there is hope.
Yeah. So first, this guy talked about California voters were duped. And, you know, that sort of thing happens a lot on these sort of propositions because of the way that they're worded. And people, generally speaking, I believe, are just not that well informed when they go to the polls. And it's easy for things that have hidden language that are intentionally misleading to get one over on the people. The actual ballot title of this Prop 47 was Criminal Sentences, Misdemeanor Penalties Initiative Statute. But it was sold to people and referred to as the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. Well, who doesn't want safe neighborhoods and schools? Of course, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, I'll vote for that, right? Safe neighborhoods and schools. They didn't tell you the fine print about, like what he said, about reducing all of these crimes and increasing the threshold from the standpoint of the monetary requirement for it to be a felony. You know, people probably didn't read that fine print. They just saw, oh, safe neighborhoods and schools. They're gonna stop wrongfully incarcerating people. They're gonna stop putting people into jail for petty crimes and drug offenses. You know who was behind that was Kamala Harris. That's who pushed this initiative, your vice president. So when I talked a few episodes ago about California leading the way, California is leading the way in a lot of ways. Not in the right ways, in a lot of sense of the word. But this is the result of this proposition is you've got a lot of disastrous consequences in our state, quite honestly, from the standpoint of the increase in crime, as that guy had mentioned. Many businesses are just leaving the state because of all of the rampant crime.
Or if they haven't left, more and more things in the store are being locked up, and you have to find an employee there to help you get Sharpies.
Oh yeah.
Just, I mean, ridiculous stuff.
Yeah. I went into Home Depot for the first time, and all of the cordless stuff, not the tools, because those have been locked up for a long time. The tool section where they got all the chop saws and cordless drills and stuff. I'm talking the stuff that's like cordless lawnmowers and cordless weed eaters and long stuff, big stuff. Now they got cages on all that stuff, and it's a real thing. Hogs 14 says, "Yep, when I was in law enforcement, grand theft was at over $400, and now you got it raised to $950 because I guess they needed more money or something, or I don't know what the reason for doing that, except making it less of a penalty for people to go out and steal. And it's just a real sad. It says it will all work out, huh? Hobo Railroad. Yeah, it will always work out. Things are gonna be what they are, right? They just will be what they are. It's going to work out. And I appreciate that. Thank you for your nice words. I have not seen that movie Civil War. Is it even out? Because I would like to see that. Excuse me. I don't know if it's going to be a Netflix thing or if it's an in theaters thing or whatever. I haven't heard anybody talking about it except you just brought it up, but I knew that it was coming out. I think this month, no? But I don't know if it's out. I have not seen it. So answer, I have not seen it. Yep. Yeah, I agree, Scanes. he's been groomed from the start. He started off with, being the mayor, and then he was mayor of San Francisco, ran it into the ground then. And then he moved into the governor's office and lieutenant governor for a number of years. And I don't know, he might have been the controller or something like that. And now he's governor. And he's been there doing his thing, running this state into the ground, placing blame where blame doesn't really exist. It should be squarely pointed back at him, but he wants to point fingers at everybody else. He was asked about the gas prices in this state, and he tried to defer that to say, oh, well, it's the oil companies that are gouging us, which is bullshit, because if that was the case, it would be a nationwide issue. It's a California thing, dude. You could fix it, but he doesn't want to fix it. All he wants to do is sit up there and smile, with his hair slicked back and lie to people. And yeah, he has been groomed from the start. That's no doubt about it. Let's see here. Oh, okay. Yeah, that movie came out on the 12th, and Skane says that bootlegs are out. I'll have to look into that. I would like to see that movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it and what your thoughts are. I think it's, yeah, I haven't heard anybody saying one way or the other about it, but.
I haven't heard about it, so I'm
in
the dark on that one.
Yeah.
That does show pictures of what San Francisco looks like, the section that he cleaned up.
Oh yeah, from when the Chinese president came, they should go back and revisit that and say, oh, this is what it looks like now, because he had it all spiffy for the visit, and
like a week or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, I think that the crime that's going on it's a nationwide problem. It's not just a California thing. It's something that's affecting all the states. It's got its own acronym called ORC, which stands for Organized Retail Crime, and it's a huge problem nationwide. I think what?
Yeah, I mean, you can be in a grocery store and watch somebody go right out the front door and nothing happens.
Yeah, that's a liability thing. They can't be having people getting injured and all that sort of thing. I mean, they've just been hands off when that sort of thing happens, because they don't want to get somebody hurt. They're not going to tell their employees, hey, go and stop people and everything. And then they get hurt because the guy punches them out or shoots them or something. And then now they're sued for millions of dollars because they told this person to engage in that. And that's not part of their job description. So people aren't doing anything about it. Yeah, I think there's somewhere around $15 to $37 billion annually, from what I looked up, lost in the retail industry. And it increased by as much as 26% when Biden took office. So from 2020 to 2021, it went up by 26%. So I can't say objectively things are getting better in this regard. I think that it's going to be a problem nationwide. At least that's what I'm hearing. I don't live in other states. I know it's bad here, and I see what happens in this state. I kind of keep my pulse on what's happening, but I'm only assuming that others elsewhere are seeing this as well, because that's what I'm seeing on the news.
You've seen the videos of brazen smash and grabs at many different retailers across the country, and federal authorities are now sounding the alarm about coordinated robberies like these. It's called organized retail crime, where groups of criminals steal high-value items to then sell online or elsewhere.
Is the key here.
Retailers say this type of crime is reaching unprecedented levels. See violent gangs and dangerous international groups getting involved. Organizations suspected of ties to drug trafficking or even terrorism financing.
These criminal.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can find video after video online of that sort of thing happening. I know that I've seen it for a long time now on social media. And it's just a real shame that we've gotten to this point. Tim Riley says that he got a movie review from SOE and Wrangler Star. Both said Civil War movie was trash and not worth wasting 90 minutes of your time. Maybe that's why I haven't heard a lot about it, because people aren't raving about it. Yeah, I'd like to make that determination for myself. Maybe I'll have a different impression of it, because sometimes when people say things are good, I look at them and I think they're shit. And so it could be the other way around, where I might have a different opinion. I don't know. I'd like to see it though, just to see it. And I may concur with those gentlemen. I'm not saying I would.
You have to stay awake.
Yeah, I have a hard time doing that, man. When I lay horizontal and put some TV on, it's game on for the
We've
Z's.
seen, I should say, I've seen Harold and Kumar probably 4 times in a row now, because he's fallen asleep and he says, "Oh, let's
Finish watching the movie."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I watch for about 15 minutes and I'm like tired. Well, you know, what happens when you get old. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's almost as if they want this to happen. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that their soft on crime policies, you know, are intentional so that they can create more of a police state. You know, so rather than getting tough and enforcing the laws on the books and having punishments that fit the crime, the answer from the government is to surveil everyone and cast everybody under an umbrella of suspicion. That seems to be what's happening. You know, I believe another rise to all of this crime has just been a degradation of the morality in this country. And the establishment are the ones that are forcing this degradation on the people. The people seemingly want to keep things kind of the way they were in this country, with less interference and less wokeness and less things being forced down our throats. But it's being that degradation of the morals that a lot of people have in this country are being challenged at every turn from the people that want to push these sort of agendas, this diversity, inclusion, equity stuff, and all this woke bullshit that people want to push, or the government wants to push. I think that has a big aspect of why we are where we are.
Isn't that one of the things that they've said about the flock cameras too, is it'll make it safer neighborhoods?
Well, that's the thing with all of this, though, Rebecca, is they always use safety as a justification for why they need to do this stuff. It's going to make everybody safer. Of course, that's what they say. But you know, at what point do we just want to live in a society that's ultra safe?
No, I'm saying that
that's what they always say.
In the fact that that's what they're selling to people. People buy that because, well, I want my neighborhood to be safe. And in reality, they're watching everything you're doing, storing all of that.
Yeah, but see, there's people that are sheeple and they want that sort of thing. Most of us that live out in the country and don't want to be having government right up on top of us, making our life ultra safe and doing all this stuff for us.
They don't realize that it's not making them ultra safe. It's not.
No, they don't. They don't realize that at all, I don't think. You know, so I guess, you know, you're going to have a rise in crime if you keep decriminalizing criminal behavior and normalizing deviant behavior, right? Mm-hmm. If people are deviants, but yet we're making that somehow normal, then you're going to have a rise in crime, because that seems like the thing to do. I don't know. Yeah, I think the solution that the establishment thinks is to implement more surveillance. You know, citing the crime reduction statistics, as you basically just said, right?
Mm-hmm. But we all know it's not going to be used for what they're selling it to you as.
Yeah, the use of this sort of technology only becomes more intrusive to us. It also catches bad guys, but it's a lot more intrusive to law-abiding citizens. And I don't know, is that something that we want? You know, most citizens, I think most of us would say that we want our police to apprehend bad people so they don't live amongst us. But where do we draw the line with all of this technology? Because it's everywhere now. You know, no longer is it just closed circuit TV recording onto a VCR tape that's being held locally at some liquor store, or the cop having to do real cop work. Now the new technology is basically scanning and reading everyone in the public space.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a few years ago, I became aware of what they were doing over in China, in communist China, and I was pretty shocked when I first learned of their facial recognition technology they were using and their whole social credit score thing. You know, I kept thinking, how Orwellian is that? But really, how far that are we? How far from that are we?
Not far.
For the future, man. I mean, the way that this thing is accelerating is kind of freaking me out a little bit. So what's been used for a lot of years, guys, is what's called an ALPR. It's an automatic license plate reader. And they've been using them for a good number of years now. Cops have. They've had them in their rigs and had them in their cars and stuff. And they can kind of use them to, I guess, identify, you know, patterns of travel. They can use them to link certain bad guys' vehicles together, or vehicles that are, you know, have issues, stolen vehicles, things like that, things that are on a watch list, essentially. They can use them also for assessing tolls. That's something they've been doing in this state for a good number of years now. So we no longer need people, you know, in those toll booths. You just drive through, it takes a picture of your license plate and then sends you the bill. And so ALPRs are technology that's been used here for quite a while. But the latest technology that they have are called flock cameras. And that's because they come from a company called Flock Safety. And if you're not aware of them, I think you will be, because they're used in more than 5,000 communities across the country and works with over 3,000 law enforcement agencies in 47 states. So there's a pretty good chance that this technology is coming to a state near you, if it's not already there. We actually just drove down to see my mom. What was it? Was it yesterday or the day before?
The day before.
Yeah, and I was looking. I wanted to see if I could see any flock cameras. We don't have any in our county that I've noticed yet.
Not yet.
Right. But we got into Lake County, which is south of us here. And as we're driving through, I'm all, there's one. There's one pointed this way and one pointed that way, right there along the roadway. And I noticed about another probably 5 locations in that county where they had flock cameras. And I think what's really fascinating to me about these is that law enforcement agencies are really embracing this technology. You know, it's almost as if they don't realize that this kind of technology is going to put them out of work.
It's going to replace them.
Oh, for sure. You know, we've been talking about it for a bit, and we're starting to see certain people lose their jobs, you know, toll takers and cashiers and things like that, right? But this AI technology is being used to write speeding tickets. Case in point is a new assembly bill that just passed in California called AB 645.
Well, the first ticket is a warning. After that, $50 if you are caught driving 11 miles per hour over the speed limit. And the faster you drive, the higher that ticket goes, up to $500. And Governor Newsom is expected to sign this. Check it out. You've seen traffic cameras. Now get ready for speed censoring cameras that will ticket speeding drivers automatically. No officer needed. LA is one of 6 California pilot cities where a trial of the speed cameras has just been approved by California legislators.
Yeah, good old Newsom. Yeah, he signed it all right. Thought he wouldn't.
Gotta love him.
Yeah, no, you don't. You don't. Yeah, Skades, I get it, man. Falling asleep. Yeah. Yeah, I've been sleeping good these days. That's a good thing. Martial law is coming. You think so? Huh. What do you think will be the thing that makes martial law happen? What do you think that's going to be? What's this here, man? The Black Mirror episode about social credit scores is really eye-opening. if you haven't seen it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up, man, so I can check it out, because I like to see things that are gonna open my eyes. Yeah, I'm interested in that. Okay. Tim Riley says that tech is all over Nashville. So you've seen the flock cameras there. What they are is they're like black. A lot of them are black. They've got a black pole, and then they've got a black camera and a little solar panel. And so I'm not saying that they aren't. They probably are all over Nashville. I would say that they are. But I think once you know what they look like, and I'm not saying you don't, I'm just saying once you guys see what they look like, and I'm going to show you here in a little bit what they look like, then you'll be better situated to be able to like pay attention and know where they are. But yeah, I don't know if it really matters much more than just knowing that they're out there. But let's see here. They run, yeah, Lou says they run this tech in New Zealand too, and around the cities. Yeah, they're using LED street lights that have cameras in them. Using LED lights that have cameras in them. Yeah, I don't know what you guys think about that. I don't know if you, what's your take on it? And quite honestly, I don't know if there's much we can do about it. It's just an interesting thing to ponder and to see this progression, because it's happening very rapidly, in my opinion. You know, law enforcement agencies are already using a lot of AI, which seems, yeah, it seems pretty clear that there's going to be a lot of less cops needed from the standpoint of actual human beings. You know, because they're already using this sort of technology for facial recognition and surveillance and all of those sort of things. Robots, right? They've got things for hazardous bomb disposal and dangerous situations, and they're using that sort of technology. And that technology is only going to get better, because I don't know if you've seen the robots that they got from Boston Dynamics right now that are just, they look human. And that's going to be a thing in the future. That'll be.
We've seen some videos that are showing, yeah, they were showing robots, and they look like actual skin, and
that's not what I'm talking about. I was talking about the Boston Dynamics ones that are like doing backflips, and I mean they're doing jousting. These were some kind of AI robots that were walking around, you know, in town and freaking people out. They have rubber skin on their face. I was talking about the other robots that they're making, but they're gonna start using that stuff in law enforcement, and it's just going to replace human beings. Mm-hmm. They're already doing that by, you know, a lot of routine tasks such as like clerical type stuff and managing case records and all of that sort of stuff. Predictive policing is another thing that they use them for. Basically forecasts where crimes may be committed and who might commit them, right? So they're profiling, which any good cop is going to profile. You wouldn't be doing your job unless you're like profiling people based on certain things, but they're using technology now to do this sort of thing. So there goes your detective bureau. You know, there's not going to be detectives needed and things like that.
Like the RoboCop.
Yeah. That was futuristic when it happened, but I think it's going to happen, and we're going to just get an opportunity to watch it. It'll be kind of fun, don't you think, guys? What do you think? Don't you think it'll be fun? Because, you know, we're all going to be around to witness it. Yeah, I think that there's too much technology, but, you know, what do we do about it? That's the question. I think a lot of us would agree with that. I know I certainly agree with it. Do you think that, and I'm asking you, Rebecca, or anybody else, do you think that this technology is a violation of your rights or your privacy?
I think it is both of your privacy, because they say that they can't, right now with the flock cameras, they're saying that they can't do facial recognitions, but yet on the other hand, you know, they're showing where they can zoom in and you can see the person driving. So yes, they are doing facial recognition.
Yeah.
And they're going up everywhere. So yeah, it's an invasion of your privacy.
Right. Yeah, I tend to feel that way. I don't know, like, standpoint from the legal aspect of it, if it is. I think that, you know, when you're in the public space as a citizen, you really don't have any expectation of privacy per se, because you're in a public space. You know, you can have people taking pictures of you and doing all that sort of stuff. You know, should the government have the right to do that? I mean, that's another question that I guess we could have the conversation in the debate, but what can we do about it? You know, they're going to say that they have the right to do that, and they're going to continue to do that. You know, things like with your license plate, that's not something that's actually, you know, if they're just taking a picture of your license plate, that's one thing, because that's government issued ID. That's not even your property. You put it on your car, you're required to have it on your car, but you don't own that license plate. That license plate was issued to you, and it's not your personal property. But the problem I have with these flock cameras, I suppose, is that they're not just taking a picture of your license plate. The flock system is taking a picture of your entire vehicle and your car, and it's identifying its unique features. So they're essentially calling it some kind of a fingerprint technology. It's a digital fingerprint of your car, essentially, because it looks at your body style, it looks at your license plate. It also looks at whether or not you've got paper plates. It looks at if you've got aftermarket wheels, if you've got roof racks, if you've got any dents on your car. It's going to note that. It's going to
say any damage to the vehicle.
Yeah, damage to the vehicle, bumper stickers, any distinguishing characteristics on your vehicle. It's being documented, and it's basically creating a digital fingerprint of your vehicle. So your vehicle is your property, and now the government is surveilling you based on that. So it's mass surveillance, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we feel about that as a society? Are we all on board with that? Are we all good with it? We're just gonna yeah, well, it's just another camera. What are we gonna do about it?
I would love to know what I can do about it, but I don't have any clues, unless there's like a blackout that's going to happen for a long period of time where the solar panels can't charge them back up. And
well, then if that happens, then what's going to happen to us? I mean, if you have a blackout where the solar panels can't charge, then what's going to happen?
I know, but I mean, otherwise, I don't.
No.
I don't know what you could do there. I don't have any ideas.
What happens with these guys is they store all the information for 30 days. That's what the company says.
They tell you.
Yeah, that's exactly what they tell you. And they also say that the entities that are leasing their cameras have the ability to retain the data for longer periods of time if they're willing to pay for it. But realize that the cost is being paid for by the taxpayer. Where do these government agencies get their money? They get it from the taxpayers. And so you are essentially, as the taxpayer of your county, your state, your city, whoever's funding this, you're paying for your own surveillance. Think about that now. Another thing that I think is a little bit nefarious about this camera system is that the data can also be shared across state lines with other law enforcement agencies, local, state, and federal. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what makes these systems, in my opinion, again, unique is the fact that they don't need any infrastructure to operate. They're standalone. They operate on solar, and they're connected to cellular networks. And they basically can give the cop the rights to the app, and it can give them alerts on their phone. So when you drive by and you might have an expired tag, or you might have something outstanding on your vehicle, or maybe you don't have anything wrong with your vehicle, but you're being tracked as you pass one of these cameras. And then that's being stored into a database, which they're telling you is only there for 30 days, unless they want to pay for it to be retained for longer periods of time. I find that kind of interesting. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that tells you that they're storing it for a lot longer than that.
They certainly have the capability to do that, and so why wouldn't they? They certainly have the data storage and the bandwidth to store as much information as they want to store. And that's the problem with all of this.
And well, for instance, people are getting into trouble for, this is not with the flock camera, but people are getting into trouble for things that they said a long, long time ago that now is considered racist, or is showing you that that information is being stored. So why wouldn't these flock cameras?
Eventually,
That's my point.
yeah, eventually, this is just going to get accelerated, right? This is just to get this stuff everywhere, and then at some point there'll be some trigger. Well, we need to take it another step further. We need to do these sort of things. The flock safety company, they've got many camera options, quite honestly, but the top of the line one's called this Falcon camera, and it can be leased for $2,500 per year, per camera per year. And then they also have like a one-time installation fee of $250. And I was actually interested to know who was paying for the cameras in Oakland to be installed. And it turns out the California Highway Patrol, the state highway troopers, has taken the initiative for the fund, or to basically fund the installation of this. So all of those 480 cameras in Oakland, they're costing the citizens of California $1 million, $1.3 million, regardless of where you live. You don't even have to live in Oakland, but yet you're paying for these cameras because the state of California is funding them, because Oakland has a crime problem, because they've mismanaged their state, or excuse me, they've mismanaged their city in Oakland, and they've got businesses leaving and people are leaving. People are scared to go there because of poor policies from the government, but yet the government's going to take more of our money and funnel it there because they want to do the right thing and fix the problem. They're going to run in like, white knights, right? And fix the problem that they created. Isn't that right?
Yeah, except for it's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I think it's also, guys, just important that you understand kind of what they look like. I think I've got a camera here. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on one second. Let's see here. There we go. Sorry about this.
Authorities can track down stolen vehicles. This is a license plate reader, also known as a flock camera, which is designed to give real-time feedback to local law enforcement agencies. This advanced technology uses cameras and sensors to send back vehicle descriptions and license plates to local authorities. They can also help law enforcement agencies track down missing vehicles and missing people. Also, people they claim to be as a bad person, they can track those guys down as well. Hopefully they stay using them for what they're intended for. So if your kid gets kidnapped, they can trace down that vehicle that took them and find your kid right away. Catch them a lot sooner than later. You're gonna see a lot more of these protecting neighborhoods, parking lots, and usually at the entrance of most cities nowadays. These license plate readers help keep our streets and neighborhoods.
Well, there you go. That's what they look like. They're pretty, it's just a black pole. And then they've just got that little solar panel with a little kind of black camera. And once you've seen one, you're going to see a lot more of them probably. We actually saw a few, most of them were standalone where they were on those poles, but I actually noticed one that was mounted on an actual street light while we were driving through Clear Lake. And I saw it. And so, yeah, it's just interesting to see these sort of things popping up, but there's cameras everywhere, man. Hobo Railroad says, I miss the old days without smart tech. Atari was my highest tech as a kid. What I see today is irreversible and leading humans off of a cliff. Yeah, it's kind of sad to admit that, but I'm not saying that I disagree with you. I don't know. It's sad. It's sad to think that, because I remember what things were like too when I grew up. And I remember what things were like 5 years ago. They were a lot better than they are today. And when you see things declining that much, with the problems, all the problems we have at the border, and all the problems we have with all this mass surveillance, and all the problems we have with the economy and geopolitics, and everything, every measure of a civilized society right now is starting to crumble when you look at everything that makes us civilized. And you may not see that in your local towns. That may not be something that's like right prevalent, but when you start to zoom out, you can see it's starting to develop, even in states where it really wasn't a problem before. A lot more problems with homelessness, a lot more problems with this organized retail crime. You're going to see things locked up. You're going to see everything changing. And that's not because we, the people, wanted that to happen. That's because our leaders, which we have elected and are supposed to be doing what it is that we, the people, would like done, they're not doing that. They're the ones that are creating this problem. And I fully agree with you that things were better when we had Atari, right?
Yeah, you had to use your brain.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yep. And I have not seen the movie Snowden. Bear in mind, it was over a decade ago, and the technology has only advanced. Yeah, that's something that I said not too long ago, but it's very true. Think about the technology we have today, and we think it's advanced. Realize that's the worst it's ever going to be. A year from now, it'll not be as good. In fact, it might be obsolete. So the thing that you're looking at now, and you're thinking, "Wow, that's really high tech." That's just version 1.0. That's the crazy part about all of this, man. It's just never going to stop. Let's see here. Another one was from Michelle Lecco. Says, my township has been talking about putting in red light cameras, traffic cameras at the borders for our safety. I'm very against it. Yeah, there's that safety word again, right? We don't even have the ability to ride around on a motorcycle without a helmet in this state. And I imagine it's like that in other states too. But California was leading the way there as well. I'm not saying it's not a good idea to have a helmet on. If I was riding a motorcycle, you damn bet I would have a helmet on, because it's a good idea. But I don't want somebody telling me that it's a good idea. But it's for my own safety, so I need to be ticketed if I don't comply to that. Same with wearing a seatbelt. I feel the same way about that.
Well, I sent a picture to my daughter because she's a vet for equine, and it's a picture of me horseback riding. And I think we might have discussed this before, but I'm on the horse, no helmet, in flip-flops, riding bareback. And she was just flabbergasted when she saw it. She was just like, and how do you get away with, because of course, everything is, you've got to have a helmet on. It's all considered safety, but
yeah, you were a real rebel wearing flip-flops.
I know, Mom.
Yeah. Hog says that sooner or later, I think people will just change license plates and vehicles. Yeah.
But if they're able to take a picture of you.
Well, see, that's just it. What's happening, because I watched an interview, and they were addressing this very issue. It was actually the Riverside County Sheriff's Office, and they were just all in on this, man. They were so thinking that the guy that was the chief of police or the county sheriff, he's like, this is the best technology. Speaking of these flock cameras, he's like, this is the best technology I've seen, the most groundbreaking thing in 33 years in my career. He says, because what happens is a lot of times what criminals will do is they'll take and they'll remove and steal a license plate off of a vehicle and put it on another vehicle. And then, it's harder for us to track it down. That shit ain't going to happen with a flock camera, because a flock camera is taking a digital fingerprint of your vehicle. And so they're going to know that that vehicle that has that license plate, it's a stolen license plate. It doesn't belong on that vehicle. You see my drift on this? So from the standpoint of law enforcement, it makes perfect sense. And I'm not saying that it's not a very useful tool for them to, work on fighting crime. But I don't know if, at what point do we decide, hey, is enough with all of this sort of stuff, technology-wise? And I don't even know if they have the answers to that. But they're just so giddy right now. They're so excited. All these agencies, your local cop, your local sheriff, your local whatever, in whatever town you are in this country, are thrilled with this technology, and they can't wait to get more of it. I guarantee you. Go look into this in your hometown, and you will be surprised at how much they are already using this technology. And it's just going to be more and more. So it's a good thing. They're not going to be able to switch license plates on vehicles because of that reason. But I don't know. How much is too much, right? Let's see here.
I think it's been too much for a long time.
I agree. Yeah, we're near a bigger city, so they are saying it's to protect us from crime. They're also a big campaign on all the highway billboards to alert people to human trafficking, to build fear. Yeah, human trafficking is a thing. It certainly is, but usually the reason why these people are being trafficked is because of the people in power that are having sex with these children. It's all the politicians and all the Hollywood people and all of those sort of people, all the people in DC. Who do you think's having sex with these kids? It isn't middle America. It's all these rich and powerful freaks who are doing this. But yet they want to make you safe from human trafficking. I don't know. Think about it, guys. Right? I don't know. It's not middle America. It's not the people that are, clinging to their Bible and their guns. They're not the ones having sex with children. It's all these freaks. But yet they're the ones that are running things. The powerful, the connected, the deviants. I think I'm ranting.
I think you are.
Sorry.
But it's okay for them. It's acceptable for them.
Yeah, it is. And it's, they create the problem, but they're going to run in with the solution so that they can make us safer. From who? Should be making it safer from them. They're the ones that have brought the deviants into the communities. They've invited them in by lax border policies, by reducing the penalties for crime that they commit. Now they need to put cameras in everybody's rooms because we're the problem, right? Yeah, get me fired up.
You are getting wound up.
Yeah, I can eventually see this being used to target drivers who visit places of interest, right? From the standpoint of profiling groups of people, the federal government has recently demonstrated its willingness to do it to people for speaking out against what they believe was a questionable election. I suspect, it wouldn't be a stretch for me to believe that something like that could be used in the future to violate First Amendment rights of, citizens, right? Cameras like this.
Right. Well, weren't they saying that they'll know if you're attending what churches, what health centers? They listed some others.
Yeah.
And what business is it of theirs to know what church you go to? Right. Or when you go, or
yeah, clearly they're using it to build these groups of people by tracking them and profiling and using what they call predictive policing, as it's called. And unfortunately, these SWAT cameras are tracking and recording the movements of millions of us, just ordinary people going about their day-to-day business, even when we're not connected to any criminal activity. We're all being surveilled. And I guess the question I would say is, how many years do you think we are away from systems like this incorporating facial recognition technology?
I would say that we're not that far away,
No.
because I think they probably already have the capability now. And I don't know, honestly, what we could do about it other than possibly having different people in office that might slow it down. I don't think we can get rid of it, but we might be able to slow it down some.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think that's probably the only thing that we could actually do would be to vote people in that are going to be responsive to what the people want. But it's the funny thing about it is usually when good people get voted in, they'll either get ostracized in the system because they see how the system works and they just don't fit within that, and they're going to be ousted, or they'll be corrupted. One of the two. But it's not very often that people are able to change the system from within. We saw that with Donald Trump, right? He went in with this grand thought of draining the swamp, and he realized that he was in the swamp and there wasn't much he could do about it. And you have other people who are outspoken, but you look how they're treated, right? You got a person like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is very outspoken, and it seems to me, listening to her, seems like she's actually interested in being responsive to her constituents that voted her in, and doesn't really care about being accepted by the liberal elite or the conservative elite in Washington.
Which both sides want her out.
Oh yeah, both sides hate her, just like both sides hated Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trump did, yeah, he didn't have any friends on the conservative side. They were only friends long enough because they knew that he could, they needed to be his friend, right? But as soon as they knew he was out, they flipped on his ass. And that should tell you everything. And it's the same way with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's going to get in there and try to make some changes, but she's just, she's speaking for us. She's speaking for the people who don't have a voice. So I thank her for that. She's bringing light to some things that somehow give us hope that the system isn't totally lost. But when you see the system, how it is, yeah, I don't know. Man, I'm kind of bumming myself out tonight.
You might have to watch Harold and Kumar.
For 15 minutes before I fall asleep.
15 minutes, give me a break.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, I don't know. I think it's pretty safe to say that there's a good number of people who are living amongst us who support a march toward less freedom, as evidenced by that poll, because there are still people that think the people that we don't think are the greatest and are going to vote for those people. And yeah, I don't know. And they vote for people like that, maybe because it's all in the name of safety. Because they don't question the authority. And they pay their 65%. And they take their medicine again and again and again. They are the beautiful sheeple from the perspective of the establishment. That's who the establishment wants, is beautiful sheeple. People who don't ask questions, that people don't challenge authority. People don't speak their mind. Just get in line, pay your taxes, go to work, come home, shut your mouth. Are you a beautiful sheep?
Not really. You mean angers me. It angers me when I have to make a dentist appointment and I have to go through a bunch of different numbers just to still get an automated voice to give a response to. Or when I went to go get the sticker for the car, DMV wanted to know if I had my phone with me, because they don't hand you a number anymore or tell you a number. They text it to you.
Get your number. Get in line.
No, they text it to you
on
your phone, and then you sit and you
we'll get
wait.
your number and sit and wait, sheeple. That's what they want.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I don't know. I say the only way that we as a people, guys, are able to stay free is to basically continue to question everything from those who are in positions of power. You know, they don't get a free pass just because they have a badge or they have been given a title. I don't think that they get a free pass for that. I think the only way that we're going to remain free is to question that they throw at us. So,
well, I think they're all happy right now, just right up until they lose their jobs, and then they're going to be complaining, and there won't be anything they can do about it.
Yeah. Hobo Railroad says the lobbyists of high tech are pushing the agenda. The politicians are weak, and we will take any bribe. Yeah, they're when you really kind of like try to think about why things are happening, and then you actually pay attention to like how they're voting and the things that they get excited about reaching across the aisle for. When you see that, you realize that, oh, it's about them. It's not about us. I'm going to just throw you some crumbs so that they can stay in power. What kind of job do people have that work until they fucking die? They look like corpses. They don't even know where they are. What kind of job is that? Where people don't ever want to retire. That's not a job. Think about that.
They do look like corpses.
No, that's on the real, man. They stay in there for decades. Joe Biden's been in politics for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a leech.
And he has no idea where he's at.
Well, yeah, but I mean, think about what he's done. He's done nothing but just suck off the people. He's a rich, wealthy man that's corrupt. But yet we're supposed to think that, oh, that's okay. And then the guy who used his own money to get elected, he's the problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. Not interesting, but I think people should know what it's like prior to these folks going into office, what type of life they lived, what their income was, and then what it is while they're in office when, just how it is that they're becoming so incredibly wealthy. And they're becoming wealthy because they're taking everybody's money.
That's the thing that blows me away. I don't understand how people are so stupid that actually vote for people like this, that actually can look at your politician, whether you're on the right or the left, whether you can sit there and you can look at that person and realize that that person has been there for decades and they haven't done jack shit for you, but yet you're going to vote for them. That's the thing that's kind of, it blows my mind. I don't even see how people can think that way. But as I said earlier, everybody believes what they believe based on life experience. But I guess that's just me thinking a little too much, thinking a little too deeply about how things are happening and why. And I don't just run into the polls uninformed thinking, oh, I'm voting for this person because they're team blue or they're team red. And so that's my side. It's worse than the other guy, better than the other guy who's worse than my guy. Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of weird, guys.
It should just be, I don't know, there shouldn't be a red or a blue. It should just be people who are running for office, and here's what you have to choose from, and they shouldn't be associated to, you should just like their message that they're spreading.
Sure.
And hopefully they're telling you the truth, which they're not, so I don't know.
Yeah, Michelle Lecco says, start local, attend your school board and township meetings, and vote for people who stand for your values. That is very good advice, Michelle. I agree with what you're saying. I think that's where it needs to start, is at the local level. I just don't know that it really matters when you get beyond the local level so much. I know it doesn't really much matter in my state. It's kind of a foregone conclusion. They're just going to do what they do. They're going to pass what they want to pass. If I was a liberal, I'd probably be happier than shit right now, because I don't even have to show up to the polls and I know my side's going to win. I know they're going to pass liberal bullshit whether I vote or not. I'd be happier than a pig in shit right now if I was a liberal. That'd be a great place to be. I should switch parties. I might be a happier person. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I agree with you, Michelle. That is very good advice. I think start local and then build outwardly from there. It's just really sad to see where things are going at the higher levels. Lobbyists and high tech are pushing the agenda. The politicians are weak, and we will take any bribe. I think I already read that. Okay, Josh Mitchell. Ask yourself if you or your group had perfect knowledge of what everyone was doing, thinking, wanting, feeling, needing 24/7. You could accomplish any goal you were after. And this is what's happening. Perfect knowledge of what everyone was doing, thinking, wanting, or feeling 24/7. You could accomplish any goal you were. Yeah. So what you're saying is that once they become so infiltrated into our daily lives with technology, they're going to have all those answers that you just threw out there. They're going to know what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and what we're wanting because of our connection to the techno world. I think that's probably what they would love. And it's pretty close actually to what is happening currently, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
These devices right here, they know an awful lot about us.
Just recently, my 6-year-old grandson, our 6-year-old grandson, said to me, Gavin Newsom's listening to you on your cell phone.
Yeah.
And I was not sure how to answer that. I just looked at him and I said, you were absolutely correct.
Yeah. That's some deep thought there, Josh. I agree with you, man. But these are listening. They know exactly what our search habits are. They know what our buying preferences are. They are listening to us as we speak, recording if they want to. They have that ability. And that all the smart devices that you have are connected to the internet. Pretty soon there's going to be smart homes because there won't be anything else. All the devices that you'll be able to buy will be smart homes. I know in my state, they're phasing out gasoline engines. By 2025, I don't think you'll be able to buy a lawnmower. It may be even sooner than that, like a gas-powered lawnmower. Those are going to be outlawed, and it'll have to be all electric chainsaws. All small engines are going to be gone here in this state. And, it's just one of those transitions that happens incrementally, and it happens slowly. And it happens at the levels that we think we should have control over, which is the state level, right? I should be able to vote my representatives in or out based upon how good a job they're doing. That's not really how it's going down. They kind of get in there and then they just stay in there because of the money that's thrown around. It's all based on economics. There's a lot of special interests in people that want to put these people in power, and then they're there to speak for them and not for us. And we are just kind of going along in this current. And I think there's a lot of people that feel very helpless because of that. And I don't know what we are to do about it, really, other than just do what we've always done, and that's take care of ourselves, because we're certainly not going to change the system. We're certainly not going to fight the tide that's coming our way. All we can do is try to opt out in the ways that are going to make most sense for us, whether that's building your community of like-minded people, whether that's trying to establish some kind of thing outside of their system. That's really all that you can do. Provide more for yourself, because they're certainly not going to help when things go down. You're going to be the last person on their list of people to help. So
maybe that's when they'll need help.
Maybe that's when who needs help?
The politicians.
Maybe, but I don't think that's the case. I think they are well positioned to be taken care of. They've got the resources, they've got the assets, and they're in the position of power. So again, the people are going to be the ones that are hurt when things go down. They're not going to be the ones that suffer at all. Believe that. You know, they'll have, Nancy Pelosi will still have Mexicans mowing her lawns while the rest of the people are trying to find food.
She'll have ice cream.
She'll have whatever she wants to have, you know. She'll still have her servants and her slaves. She'll still be getting her hair done. All of those sort of things are going to continue for them. They don't continue for us. They shut all the businesses down. The small businesses were shut down, but who stayed the whole? Who stayed running? It was the large corporations. It was all the connected people. They didn't have to shut down. But millions of people were affected by all of their policies and all the things that they pushed on people. Who were hurt by that? It was we the people, not them.
Mm-hmm.
So, boy, this is not a very uplifting evening, is it? I'm not leaving people with a warm and fuzzy feeling. Yeah, guys. Well, I think I'm gonna get going here. I appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight. And this was a little unorthodox, but I do think that it's important to maybe talk about these sort of things because they are around us. And unless we know they're around us, we're just going to go through life not really either caring or maybe not knowing. Maybe this is something you don't care about at all. Maybe this is something that you would like to know about. And now you may be a little bit more informed about flock cameras and them coming to a community near you. Appreciate that, Scanes. I'm always grateful to see you here, and I appreciate it. I would like to leave you guys with a quote, and it goes like this, guys. We know that if one man's rights are denied, the rights of all are endangered. And that was said by Robert F. Kennedy before he was shot in the head in 1964. And so I think it bears repeating. We know that if one man's rights are denied, the rights of all are endangered. I like quotes like that that have wisdom behind them because they're certainly very true. And it gives us, or at least it gives me, cause to think about, you know, people from the past and the things that they've talked about and how they are and can be applied to the things that are happening today. So again, I thank you guys for this evening. We're going to get out of here. We still have a little bit of dinner to attend to. Yeah, and we're going to also need to sew up the animals out there. It's still daylight. Can you guys believe that? It's crazy. We just did like a 2-hour live and it's still daylight out here. Why are we doing this while it's still like daylight? We should be out working, doing something.
You didn't have enough work today?
I had plenty.
Gosh, go out there.
Right on, guys. Hey, I appreciate everybody. It's always cool hanging out with people in these lives, and you know, tonight was just kind of a rambly night. But yeah, again, I just want to thank you guys, And remember, we've got a farm store at porterhouseandteallive.com, and we can cover all your comfrey needs for 2024. It is planting season, you guys. And you can catch the rebroadcast of this live on Audible, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google. And thanks again. Remember that homesteading is not harmful content. And go out and be better tomorrow than you were today.
Thank you all for joining us.
Yep.
Have a great evening.
Yep. We'll see you guys.